Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at the full moon in Libra, which is occurring in my time zone in the Midwest on Saturday, April 12th at 7:23 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you live in Europe or places overseas from the United States, wherever that is on other continents, then it will be on the 13th of April. So Libra is the sign that rules the seventh house of relationships. So with full moons, we look at the themes based on the sign that is in question. And with Libra, we're talking about committed partnerships. And a full moon can do one of two things. Well, I mean, it can do a bunch of things, but two of the main things in terms of relationships, it can create the desire to fulfill or bring to fruition that bond in the form of commitment. So, you can even talk about with full moons that there's a sense of release. So, releasing resistance to the idea of committing to someone, which, by the way, it doesn't have anything to do with whether or not someone loves another person, why they would be resistant to fully commit. It can just be because of other things. Maybe their parents did not stay together and that was traumatic for them, and they don't want to experience any kind of like breaking up with somebody because it would remind them of that horrible situation when they were growing up. And so they kind of keep at arm's length when they're involved with someone. But there can, fear of loss of freedom. There's just so many reasons why people kind of don't want to commit even when they care for someone or they deeply love someone. And the other thing that can happen is breaking up with someone, where the full moon can be either because, full moons can bring out secrets and things that were hidden before. All of a sudden, somebody has some information that they didn't have prior to that, time. And the other thing is, it can be that it's kind of like a breaking point or kind of a, where it's like that crisis and something has to give. Like you can't just go on business as usual. So it's almost like the tower moment in the tarot. When you draw the tower card, you're like, okay, well, something is wanting to just kind of like, it's like lancing a boil or something. So it can have like drama attached to relationships at this time. Now, obviously, that's not true for everyone. One of the things that Libra represents is fairness. And there can be like political uprising or strife even. I'm going to look at some of the aspects that are formed at this time. I will say that this is happening, like I said, in my time zone. This is going to be on Saturday night. Oh, wow. That'll be very interesting. We'll see how that goes. Whenever there's a full moon on a weekend night, I'm always like, okay. I mean, Libra is an air sign, so you typically don't think of anything that volatile. But remember, at the time of a full moon, it's an opposition, and the sun is in Aries. It's in the opposite sign. And so Aries is very volatile. And so when I look at some of these other personal planets, we have Mercury at 28 Pisces. We have Venus at 24 Pisces. So they're Mercury and Venus are forming a conjunction. Mars is at 27 Cancer. So all water and fire. The Libra isn't fire, is air, but we have the fire in the sun, and then we have the water. And the reason that I was emphasizing that is that fire and water are both emotional. One is passionate. Aries, as a fire sign, is passionate, and then you have that, very personal feelings of the water signs. So looking at some of the aspects that are formed at this full moon, the sun and moon are both squaring off to Mars because they are all cardinal signs. They're squaring off to one another. And what that means, and I've noticed that in recent months, there hasn't been these hard angles like that with Mars. But we were seeing it before quite a bit in earlier months in recent years. The sun square Mars, the sun is the ego, and Mars can be anger, or, it can be just like action itself. But the hard angle between the sun and Mars can indicate that people are, acting in terms of their sense of self, but it's coming from a very rash place. And the fact that the moon is squaring to Mars means acting in haste out of emotion. And that's really, a lot of times, that's where you're going to get into trouble. And this can, definitely happen in personal relationships. It doesn't have to be at some protest march. It could be like in a personal relationship. With the sun square Mars, a person doesn't feel appreciated. And what I mean by that, you could also even say with the moon square Mars the same thing, but with the sun square Mars, it's like I'm this entity and I'm angry because of what's maybe I feel like I am always being thwarted in life. I feel like a nobody, or I feel like I have to prove myself in some way. With the moon square Mars, it's like it can actually be anger. When people have this in their natal chart, they can have like anger management issues. Yes, we have the moon in Libra, but sometimes, it's the thing with the moon in Libra is it's kind of like trying to be nice and then feeling like something sets that person off. With Mars in Cancer, it can be feeling unloved, feeling unappreciated, feeling like being the martyr. There are trines from Mercury and Venus to Mars. So that can be good in terms of acting in ways that are, or speaking in ways that are measured, like not doing things impulsively, because Mars can be impulsive, but when there is a friendly angle like a trine, that can be more constructive. There are some really nice angles to Mars, which is, apart from the sun and moon. But I see, once again, we have this hard angle between Mars and Pluto. And that is one of those things that can be quite concerning for any kind of issue surrounding violence. So if I know that they're forming not just in the United States but around the world. There are other countries. On April 5th, they're having some kind of a protest, but this is a week later, so we'll see when I do these things earlier, life hasn't happened enough. I kind of don't like doing things that early because things change so quickly. So we'll see what happens around the time of April 12th or the 13th, if there's any other reason to have that kind of thing. But if there is, I would tread very carefully, because with the moon square Mars and Mars opposing Pluto, there could be trouble. And with that opposition, you're talking about, it's almost like a projection onto someone else. It's like you're the reason that I'm being violent because, you're controlling me. And, sometimes people get entrapped into because I mean, of course it is true. It is true that people can feel very oppressed and they might feel like they want to lash out, but you have to really think about it. It's very hard when you have these hard angles to Mars to really think before you act. And it's so important. The fact that I'm posting this weeks in advance, just to remember to think before you act. And this could be even like in traffic. It can be anywhere, because there could be like this volatility in that sense. Venus is squaring off to Jupiter, and that's very indulgent, like self-indulgent. So that could even involve excesses and any kind of, I could even see like substance abuse. Let's see here. I'm looking to other indicators. I don't see anything. Venus is about pleasure. And when it forms a hard angle to Jupiter, a person can be overly indulgent. But both of these are benefic planets. So even when they are forming a hard angle, it's kind of like too much of a good thing. But, as I stated, in United States, this is on Saturday night. So I suspect it could even involve intoxicants and things of that nature. And that obviously can alter a person's consciousness and make them, do things that they wouldn't normally do. But also, I'm speaking about this in terms of relationships. And let me see here. Oh, another thing that is happening in terms of relationships, we have a conjunction between Mercury and Neptune and Venus and Neptune. And this can indicate going into that fantasy mode, or denial, even with Mercury in conjunction with Neptune. What are you receiving from other people in terms of communication, which is what Mercury represents? What are you receiving? Is it what they actually have conveyed, or is it the idealized version of that, or an alternative narrative that makes you feel better? This can also apply to any kind of news that we receive. I mean, fake news. With Neptune, there can be deception there. There can be quite the gilding of the lily. Venus in conjunction with Neptune. This is, conjunctions don't have to be challenging, but when Neptune is involved, they can be, because there's always going to be that fantasy aspect. And with Venus, it can be that somebody's idealizing love. And if, in fact, your relationship is not what it should be, that's not going to be something that you want to hold on to. So if you're having this, let's say you find out something about your partner because of this full moon, and you're like, no, actually that didn't happen. My best friends are lying to me. They saw him in a bar. cheating, making out with someone. That's a lie. They're just jealous that I'm in a relationship or whatever. Those are the kind of things that people can play games with themselves and lie to themselves about when you have Neptune contacts to both Mercury and Venus, both of those planets, because they really do, I don't know, work in tandem in a sense in that way. We do have some nice aspects from the sun sextiling Jupiter and the moon trining Jupiter. So it's like being in high spirits and having positivity. So I think that for some people, this is going to be a wonderful time, a high energy night, or if this is your early morning hours. Actually, if you're in Europe, it might be like, uh, early in that morning time, and maybe you still have been out and you're coming home. But it can be a very, I feel like for some people it's going to be a high vibe time, and I think it depends, just like anything else in life. I think that for some people it will be high vibe. I think for other people it will be challenging because they're already dealing with challenges. So it's just like magnifying it. And so I do think that relationships, the two areas that we should see the emphasis happening are in relationships and issues surrounding the law and fairness and therefore by extension political matters as well. And as is always the case, not to get sucked into anything that may be kind of created even, like that conjunction between Mercury and Neptune, creating this false narrative to suck you in emotionally to get you to react and like literally, physically react to something. It doesn't mean that you have to be passive because there's a lot of cardinal energy here. And that means that people want to feel like doing something. They don't feel like just talking about something or just sitting around. They feel like doing something. And, that's okay if you're doing something constructive. Otherwise, what's the point even? All right. Well, that's what I have for you. I hope that you enjoyed this. Oh, and I forgot to say what kind of moon this is. This is the pink moon. Be sure to listen to Nick Drake's song, Pink Moon. I think I actually did that one year when it was a pink moon. And almanac.com, I always go to that site because what I like about it is they mention alternative names because I just like, these names. Sometimes they seem very poetic. So these were named by the Native Americans because it has to do of, what is happening in nature at the time. And some of the other names that they listed here, the fish moon, sprouting grass moon, the egg moon. That's interesting. I'm assuming that eggs were laid. I don't know what kind of eggs. Usually they'll explain what that means, but I don't see anything here. But yeah, so what the pink moon means is it's actually not connected to the moon being pink. I think oh no, that was red, not pink. The one that was the lunar eclipse in Virgo. But I'll probably find a picture of a pink moon just to use it. But it's actually the type of flowers that are like, the early spring flowers that are pink. And so that's why they call it that. So anyway, have a great full moon in Libra. Thanks for listening. Bye.